going on, everybody? Welcome back to the round table, man. Lit homie Jack here with my man Sha.
Peace. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen?
And this is our first ever episode. This is part 2 right here. And we got my lovely friend and family member T the teacher here.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
How you doing?
I'm good.
First and foremost.
I'm good.
And thank you for coming up here.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for having me. This is my first time doing a podcast, so I'm excited.
Really? It's going to be your first of many, so I'm glad we gave you the first one. I saw what you were doing with the book. I know the background of it, so I wanted to get you up here and just, talk about everything. The book, your inspirations, family, but it should be a good one. But tell us a little bit lightly about what made you want to write your book.
Well, what made me write this story is because I have a history of mental illness in my family. Mm-hmm. And I'm also an educator. And in education, I deal with kids with special needs. So that is a mental health issue right there that a lot of people kind of don't realize. Mm-hmm. Like mental health and special ed is one.
Okay.
So it's me having a background with dealing with it in my family and then dealing with it at work. I'm like, I need to be a voice. I need to be a voice for the voiceless. So I wrote a children's book because I deal with children and they need to know how to deal with anxiety and being afraid and all types of things that comes with mental health. So that was the inspiration behind me writing the story.
Yeah, see, that's amazing too. But they don't teach that. It's not in the curriculum. It's just something that's not spoken on, even in our black community and just the school district period,
Right, there's like a stigma with mental health,
mm-hmm.
From kids all the way up until adults, and especially in our community.
Sure.
So, a couple of years ago, I decided to come out and share my story, and I've been helping a lot of people, so I kind of just have the battery in my back now to continue helping. And that's what I need to do.
Right, that's great because, truthfully, they push that to the side, special ed kids. They're special ed kids. We're not going to really pay them that much attention. I feel like in our black community, we stray away from it. It's like we're embarrassed if we're dealing with certain issues, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about. This is life. And it's good that you're able to say, hey, you know what? Let me be the voice. Let me speak. Let me be the quarterback. Let me put this out there because there's so many lives out here now, especially in our community, dealing with COVID, anxiety, all that situation took it over the past year, and everybody wants to talk about it, but it's been going on. You saw your mother go through it. So
I want to talk about the word that you just used, embarrassed. Mm-hmm. And that is the reason why we have the stigma, because a lot of people are embarrassed, and I once was embarrassed too. And from the educational standpoint, I've seen a lot of parents are embarrassed as well, right? And I always use my personal experience to kind of have them know that it's okay. Mm-hmm. But I know what it's like to be on both sides. I know what it's like to be embarrassed. In special education, a parent has to agree to get the services for the kid. We can't force them.
Okay.
And a lot of parents have a hard time agreeing to get the kids the needs, the things that they need because of that word, embarrassed. So it's like, my kid doesn't have a disability. Yeah. My kid is just angry, right? My kid is just learning a little slower. Like, it's always an excuse because you are embarrassed. You don't want your kid to be on a little bus, or you don't want your kid to be in a box. And in the black community, they kind of was like, they wrote off people that was a little quote unquote off.
Right.
That's how we said it in our community. Or, his elevator don't go to the top floor.
Right, we joke about it.
And Crazy Joe in the basement. Or, he haven't always been wrapped too tight. And then that was it. And then that's, wow. So it is a lot of embarrassment, and it's not easy. It's not easy. But once you finally get to a place of admitting it and acknowledging it, is so much help out there. So it's like, I just want people to get that help that they need, because it's only going to get better.
Right.
Once you acknowledge it.
Right.
Okay, that's dope. Right. And I'm sitting back listening to what you're saying. Hopefully you can make a difference to where you got a change in the curriculum, or just something that integrates into the school aspect that just definitely makes a change, because we don't talk about it at all. We joke about it. I know, I'm just thinking about, when you're listening to you talk, I'm thinking like middle school, just the type of stuff we used to say that I won't repeat because it's stupid.
Right.
But, I hope that with everything that's going on, people and younger kids will be able to take a step back and say, okay, well, let me start to understand this person a little bit more. You know, why he's doing this. He or she might have these habits, characteristics, instead of just, like you said, writing them off and just joking or not taking their health serious.
Right. Fortunately now, it is starting to become baby steps into the school curriculum. They have something called SEL, which is social emotional learning. So they've been trying to push that into schools to help students deal with bullying and the effects of that, and special needs, and or kids that have like a physical disability. Like all of that ties into it. So it's not like really loud right now, but we starting to see a little bit of progress. And hopefully with my book and other people who wrote a book and people that are sharing their stories, that hopefully, you know, as time progresses, we'll start to see it like a huge thing where mental health is no longer like a taboo in school. We can actually talk about it. We can kind of learn how to process our feelings. And so that's the goal. So that's the reason why I'm speaking up, because I'm like, I want to see this change. And I feel like if we all get on the same page, parents, educators, and, you know, students, I think we can make a change.
I agree, for sure.
Well, I have a question. What age was it for you when you realized what your mother was dealing with?
What age? I don't remember the exact age.
Or what
to
situation?
be honest, but I knew something wasn't right. And again, in our community, they don't really like to talk about it. So, you know, what I struggled with was no one really telling us all of the things that was really going on.
Oh.
But what a lot of times, even though parents tried to hide us, we could see it.
Yeah.
I would see my mom do things that was not normal, that wasn't right. So, you know, as a kid, I was a bit confused, but I knew I didn't know the term. I didn't know mental health, or I didn't understand when people would say. Because I would hear adult conversations. They didn't have conversations with kids back in the day, right? Like
stay in your
they
place.
went to now. It was like, you gotta stay in your place. Adults are talking. You could be right there, and they could be talking about you, and you can't even say anything, right? Because you're being deemed disrespectful.
Right.
Yes.
But, you know, so I would listen to conversations. I would hear her, you know, say like, okay, you know, her mother has a mental illness, or she's in and out the hospital. My mom was in and out the hospital since I was a little girl. So I knew there that it was something wrong, but I didn't know the words. I didn't have the language for
They
it.
sugarcoated everything to
I
you.
didn't know how to process it. I didn't really know too much about it, but I don't, like, again, it wasn't, I can't give you a year, but I was young.
Okay.
I can say I was very young, and she was in and out like a hospital, like a psych ward.
Okay.
Another thing I wanted to ask you, so I know you have a brother, of course. You have a younger sister. Now, you being older than your sister and maybe being able to comprehend certain things, just being older and kind of understanding, how was that on you kind of dealing with your younger sister? Her being probably a pretty short kid to a baby just how was that whole process?
Honestly, I repeated the cycle. Okay, so the cycle was, you don't talk about it.
Okay.
You know, mom is in the hospital. It was almost like that's just all we know, and that's all we were told. So ideally, you know, looking back, you would think that I would be able to talk to her, but I didn't have the language. I didn't know what was going on. So it was like, we didn't talk about it. Like, no one talked about it with me, so I didn't talk about it with her. It was kind of like, she's sick, she's in the hospital, life.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Let's live life.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
like, again, it's just so unhealthy when you really think about it. It's like, dang, I really was like 12 years old processing all these feelings by myself. But that's just how it is in our community. Like, unfortunately,
That's what we're taught in our homes. That's the problem.
Yeah.
We're taught that at home. And I think that's where we have to make the change at this point in time, is at home.
Right.
You know, even if the kids are feeling a little awkward, if they have to reach out to their mom and pop and say, hey, get me into this program. Or us as parents, or me, I'm a father. So I'm always questioning, you okay? You good? Everything all right? Like, it's important to communicate. And I think that's the problem, especially in the black community, because that's the only community I'm from.
Right.
That we don't communicate. We'll sugarcoat it. We throw a bag over it. So it's great that, you know, you're here now and the times have changed and we're able to get this ball rolling. You know what I mean?
Right. And you said communicate. And again, if you did communicate, you were deemed disrespectful in some regards, right? Because you weren't allowed to ask certain questions.
Correct.
You weren't allowed to join in adult conversations. So it was like, you know, my grandparents, they raised me and they did a great job raising me, but they also kept a lot from us. And I get it, right?
To
Because in that
protect
time, in that time frame, it was to protect us. It was nothing else besides protecting us. And it feeling like I need to be a kid. I don't need to be bombarded with adult issues.
Right. Stay in a child's place.
Right, staying in my child's place, and but also there was nobody, like you just said, to say, how are you feeling? How are you doing? You know, I just seen my mother have an episode. The ambulance came, took her to the psych ward, and no one would be like, are you okay? You know, that's all you really needed as a kid. It's like, yo, are you okay? Or that reassurance, like everything is gonna be okay. Don't worry. Like we didn't have that, so. That's why moving forward, you know, me being a mom now, whenever I feel like my son is not even looking right, or I know sometimes he feels like I'm a little over the top, it's because he doesn't know what it's like to not have that communication. So that's why I just try to like kind of be on him, like, are you okay? You're not looking too good today. How you feeling?
Sure.
Good days, let's talk. You know, because you know, on the bad day, a parent got 30 words for you in 2 minutes, you know, like, you did this, you did that. But, like, what about uplifting, you know, or when they're doing good and praising them, just opening the lines of communication. And that's not something that I grew up. So that's what I feel like part of my work here to do is to get those communication lines open.
Yeah, you being a part of the change. You know, the reason why I brought it to my partner right here to bring you up here is I feel like you might have found your purpose. You feel like that? Like, is this your calling in some way to kind of advocate?
Yeah. I don't really like to label it like my purpose, because sometimes I'm like, I feel like sometimes people use that word and it's like, you kind of like harp on it. But this is just who I genuinely am. Mm-hmm. And I've been working with students for over 10 years with disabilities. Like, that's always been my demographic. So I definitely know working with students with special needs, that's my calling right there. Right. Now, me shifting over to mental health and being an advocate, you know, I'm new in this field, but it's definitely hand in hand. Mm-hmm. And I definitely feel good about it. And when I decided to come out and share my personal story, and that burden was lifted, and then so many people hit me up, and it's funny because they hit me up behind the scenes. Like, a lot of people didn't comment, but it was a lot of DMs, right? Like, you know, I was diagnosed with this, or, you know, I was facing this, and it's like, okay, I wasn't the only one hiding, right? Mm-hmm. So now I'm like, I'm an open book. Like, come ask me anything. I'll post anything now.
Right.
5 years ago, no.
Yeah.
But now I feel like maybe I'm slowly walking into my purpose on that perspective, but I'm not sure yet. But it's happening organically.
Right.
For me.
I think so. I kind of see you going down a good path. And just, what made you want to actually write the book? Like, sit down and just say, hey, let me deliver this to the kids. Like, what was that about?
Well, actually, I always wanted to write a book. But I really wanted my first book to be about my mother. Like, when I was revealing the stuff that I was going through, I was like, I need to write a book. So I went to my grandmother, but I didn't tell her I wanted to write a book. I just was like, can you just tell me some more about, like, my mother's history? And, you know, she just started telling me, you know, your mom started, she said that she started to get phone calls, like my mother wasn't acting like herself. And she was just doing strange things, and my grandmother was like, huh? Like, she didn't understand it either. So then I just started taking notes, writing notes. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, I just want to know this for me. But in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna write about this. I'm gonna share my story.
You knew what you were up to.
But then life happened. My mother, she was still in the hospital at that time. She was in and out, whatever. And then she passed away. And when she passed away, like, I no longer had the desire to share her story in a book form.
Okay.
So I was just like, okay, well, how can I transform this mental health and still having some type of connection with my mom,
right?
But let me change the focus. So I was like, you know what, later on when I'm there, when I feel like I'm healed and I'm over that situation where I can really come back and finish talking with my grandmother, because right now it's just like, it's too deep and I don't really want to go down that right now. Mm-hmm. So I was like, you know what, let me move my focus. I'm going to write a children's book about anxiety, which is under the mental health umbrella. And that's
Right.
something I even struggle with. And a lot of my students struggle with. And sometimes we see anxiety and we just think, oh, you're being a punk, you're being scared. Like, no, it's really real. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and my heart is beating fast. I have no reasoning, like nothing is happening, or sometimes I'm overthinking stuff. And you might see a 7-year-old, having those same behaviors, and you like, oh, man up, boys don't cry, or
Right.
why you acting all soft? And it's like, no, it's deeper than that.
Okay.
So that's when I was like, let me write a story about it, and a story in a kid's form, because kids relate when it's something that they care about, right? I don't want to give a book about an adult having anxiety, because the kid's not going to understand that until they old. And I'm like, what are we going to do now for the 7-year-olds?
Mm-hmm.
What about the 8-year-olds that's going to a new school and don't know what to do and has no techniques, and the doctor is telling their mom, oh, they have ADHD, give them pills, give them meds,
For sure.
So I'm like, there's so many tools out here. So hopefully my story and me educating kids and educating parents too of the kids can just help everyone.
Okay, that's great. I have a question, because I want to know, why do they feel like they have to give the child a medication? Why is that the first thing that they go to? And then in the black community, parents are quick to just jump on the medication to calm the child down, when I feel like that's the bailout.
Right. Well, I feel like there's a lot of different answers to that, because if we don't talk about mental health, then we're not going to know what to do to help the issues that they have. So you're unfamiliar with counseling, you're unfamiliar with the term of mental health, and you're hiding it, then you're not going to take the necessary precautions or the steps to help it. You're just going to follow what the doctor is saying.
Right.
Right? So the doctor is saying, oh, they're hyper, give them some medicine. And they go about their day, but there's deeper. There's therapy, there's play therapy. Some people don't know about that. There's art therapy, there's music therapy. There's so many different forms of therapy.
Wow.
And a lot of people either one feel like they can't afford it, especially in our community, because therapy is expensive. But what they don't tell you is that a lot of insurances cover it.
Exactly, I'm about to say that.
Right? So I feel like it's a two-part. Like, a lot of people are not aware of the help. And then two, the doctors are just doing their job and they're getting their money, right? If I give you meds and you come and see me every month, right? And then I'm checking in on you every 3 or 4 months. I'm keeping the clientele. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's two sides to that, And I wish at 12 I was receiving therapy.
Wow.
As I was seeing the traumas of what I was dealing with. Like I probably would have benefited and probably would have been spoke about it, but wasn't presented to me. I wasn't aware of therapy. I was just like lost, like figuring it out on my own.
So give us some feedback that maybe you might have gotten from kids that have read your book.
Well, the kids that read my, they're young, right?
Mm-hmm.
So their feedback is amazing, because it's just so raw, right? Like they don't know the word anxiety.
Yeah.
They just know, I felt scared before too. Mm-hmm. Simple, like, and I read it to my second graders, and they were answering questions, and at the end of the book, there's questions that I asked them to see if they understood the story. And one of the activities was to, write about a time, or you was feeling sad and what did you do to overcome it. So for them to even process that and have someone to talk about it, like, hey, it's normal to feel sad, right? Because sometimes we get so caught up in, don't be sad. Like, no, it's okay not to be okay. You're upset. You got disappointed today. Mm-hmm. Draw a picture. Let's talk about it. Mm-hmm. And they are able to tell me, like, okay, I remember this day I felt sad, and this is how I felt better. Or maybe if I do this, I can, I can not be crying anymore. So that feedback is phenomenal for me, because that was the target for a kid to say, what can I do when I'm feeling sad or if I'm feeling nervous? What can I do? Yeah. Can I draw a picture? Mm-hmm. I'm 7, so what can they do really? Yeah. As an adult, you can be like, go have a glass of wine, right. Or go to the club, or do whatever, go your advice. But when you're 7, what can you really do? Mm-hmm. Besides a parent telling you, go have a seat, not really acknowledging or understanding what you have going on. Wow. So for them to even be able to communicate and us have those conversations now, mm-hmm. And every morning I ask my class in our meeting, how are you feeling? Oh, I'm feeling happy. I'm excited. Today's Monday and I'm back in school. Right. And then that's the kid telling me that I don't want to like at home. I feel safe with you, so I'm happy
Right.
it's Monday. And I got the kids on Friday, like, I'm not feeling too happy because I don't get to see you tomorrow. Right? So like now we having those conversations, so now I can start digging in deeper, like what's going on with you. But all they really need is that person to say, how are you feeling?
Right.
That goes such a long way.
Right.
I can see you making such a big difference just hearing your stories, you know. Because I didn't have that as a kid, you know what I mean? Just teachers are just, yo, here's the work. And a lot of them are good. You know, we got a lot of good teachers. Some you don't care too much for. I think that's anybody's story. But you never really have a teacher like, yo, how you doing today? Like, what's going on? And, like, your teacher might tell you the most, hey, your progress report is saying this, but I know you're a good kid. But it's never what's behind that.
Right.
Like, why are your grades not reflecting who I know that you are?
Right.
And if you can open that conversation up, that's dope. You know?
Absolutely. And a lot of students, they act out. I used to work in a behavior school before my mental health advocacy. And a lot of the students really were acting out because they were so hurt. They deal with so much trauma. Kids were removed from their home. Like the kids that I serviced, they all lived in a group home. So
Wow.
Imagine you living in a group home every day, not seeing your parents. Imagine you not knowing your parents. Like it was so much trauma. So sometimes these class clowns and these kids with the behaviors and the aggression, it's coming from somewhere. So it's so important to kind of get to the root of it because that's how we really heal once we get to the root of our issues. And a lot of it, what I've learned from my personal experience from therapy is your childhood is what forms you into the adult you are now. So if you don't get to that root with those traumas of the things that happened in the past, it's going to resurface. It's going to resurface at work. It's going to resurface in your social life, in your dating life. Like, it's just, if you don't heal it, it's just going to keep coming in different ways.
And that's my next question for you is that how long do you suppress this? Like, you know, was it hard dating? You know what I mean? Was it hard expressing yourself because you had this going on at home? You know what I mean? Did you keep a small group of people and didn't want everybody to know what was going on? You know, like, I know that was just a whole lot at once.
That's a great question. That's a great question. The answer to your question is yes. It definitely affected me across the board.
Okay.
So, yes, relationships in the past have been affected because, one, I'm not a good communicator. And I had to admit that. Like, listen, I'm not the best. And it wasn't until therapy recently, maybe like a year ago, when she was able to break down why I don't open up to people. And it's because of the things that I've been through in the past. But most importantly, I didn't have anyone to communicate with me. So if I'm 8 or 9 watching my mother have these mental episodes and I'm moving back and forth from my grandmother's house, then my mom was doing okay. She was kind of stable, so we would go back with her and she would have an episode and we have to leave and then we were back and forth. It was really no consistency when I was young until I got into maybe 5th grade is when I stayed with my grandmother permanently. But at those young, tender ages, no one communicated with me. So as I was growing up, I didn't communicate because I didn't even know how to, right? Because if someone comes to me and say, how you feeling? How do you process this? They didn't put us in therapy, so I had no outlet. So I internalized everything. I keep everything in. And to this day, I still struggle with that because I just don't feel like opening up. And part of me is you don't want that vulnerable side to come out. And another part of me, I feel like
that's the pride.
I'm just stuck sometimes because I'm I went 20 something years with no one asking me or no one communicating with me. So it's now I'm an adult and I'm in a relationship and now you want me to just open up. And I'm I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
But that did affect a lot. And to this day, that's something I'm working on. Right? I'm still a work in progress. I'm still working on that and trying to figure out how do I open the lines of communication without feeling vulnerable, without feeling embarrassed. And my best friends of 20-something years, they didn't know my mother had a mental illness. They didn't know. It was you didn't talk about it. It was just yo, she's sick. She lives here. That's it.
How did that affect your siblings? Y'all relationship personally, because now you know, it's no one's communicating, but you have a younger sister, You're the big sister. You said he had a brother. You had a.
Yeah, my older brother.
Was he? You know.
You know what the crazy part is? I don't know how it really affected them that much because we didn't talk about it. Like, it was like, we going to see mommy. Like, okay. And we went to see mommy and we came back home and we just went back to life as usual. It wasn't like a big, like, oh my God, can you believe she's here? It's because we grew up like this.
Okay.
So it was kind of like normal in a sense. Like, now looking back, like, no, it's
That's
not
scary.
normal.
That's
It's not
scary.
normal at 15 years old, you know, going to Bergen Regional and spending 2 hours with your mom and then leaving. It's not even as an adult. And taking my son, I used to take him with me because I'm like, somebody got to tell him. I don't want him to be in the dark. And he used to be like, Mom, why is Grandma living in the hospital? You know, and even though it was like the inpatient where they live, it's still very much hospital bed, hospital everything, hospital trays. Like, so it wasn't like a home environment where he could be like, okay, this is Grandma's house. Like, it's in a big building. Right. No, it's very, like, you going into Hackensack Hospital or Holy Name. It's very, like, the same exact scenery. So, and then he would ask me, and I had to really tell him, like, you know, Grandma's sick, and this is where she has to stay right now. And hopefully one day, you know, she can get better. But I had to have those conversations with him because when I look back, I'm like, I was young and my mom was in these facilities and no one really explained to me, but I knew, like, because she was sick. That's all I knew. She was sick. But it's like, what you mean sick? Or then it would be like, oh, she's going to get better. So he was kind of like looking for that glimpse of hope. Like, okay, she's going to get better. And then at times she would come out. You know, and I was younger in my teens. She was stable enough to live on her own at times. Okay. So it was like, okay, well, maybe they're right. Maybe she is getting better. And then something would happen, and then you would see her go back, and it's like, you know. But again, there was no conversation. There was no, like, let me put them in therapy because they have to process this. It was kind of like, you live your life, you continue being a good person, you know, everything happens for a reason. And, you know, black people, we love saying pray on it, you know, and there's nothing wrong with prayer because prayer works. But we have to do more than pray when it comes to mental health. We really got to talk about it. We have to get the help. We have to be able to have those uncomfortable conversations, you know, because after a while, you're like, all right, I'm praying on it now. It's 10 years later. And if I'm still praying and nothing is changing, like, why am I going to keep praying? Because now you start questioning God. Like, is this really happening to me?
Did you ever go through that, questioning God?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Especially when, like, Mother's Day would come around and my friends would, like, do, like, mother-daughter trips. And, like, that would, like, eat me inside. But I didn't communicate. I didn't tell nobody. But I would be like, well, God, what happened? My grandmother keeps telling me to pray, and we go into church every Sunday, but there's no progress. So after a while, you start to be like, all right, like,
Yeah.
So it's still a lot as an adult, and having to be a mother now and trying to get it right and opening lines of communication, and then struggling with communicating and trying to unpack so much from my childhood to not make the same mistakes.
Right.
It can get heavy.
I'm sure it can, because on the top of that, you're a school teacher, so you're dealing with that, dealing at home. It's like triangle.
Right.
It's from all angles.
Me being a teacher of the students with special needs, I feel like that right there helps me, because I see these students who really can't help what they have going on internally.
Right.
And it just makes me realize, like, you know, what my mother was doing or what she had going on wasn't her fault. And it makes me such a compassionate person. Because it's like, sometimes people see things and sometimes you read stories, you're like, oh, that person's crazy, or they do that. And it's like, it's really a sickness. It's really an illness. It's not something that you can control. It's something that your brain has no control over. It. It's something completely out of your, you know, your realm.
Reach.
Yeah, you can't fix it, like you personally, you know.
Right.
And I watched my mother struggle. I watched her take medication for 20 plus years, and I watched the episodes, and I watched the medication work and not work, and I watched her have episodes where she was so aggressive that they had to put her on a lot of medications, to the point where my grandparents went back to the doctor, like, you know, we don't want her to be aggressive, obviously, because you don't want to hurt someone, hurt herself. but we don't want her to be a zombie either.
Exactly.
Like, she would just come home and sleep for
Be-
12
be-
hours,
right,
and it's
be
like,
stuck.
so it was a lot.
Right.
But that just taught me to have a little bit more patience with people, right? Because you don't know what they're going through internally. That taught me to not get so frustrated with what's going on outside, because you really don't know what people are going through. Even looking at myself, I present to be okay, and I presented growing up to be okay, but I wasn't.
Yeah. Wow. And that's funny you said that, because I tell my son that all the time. I said, when you wake up in the morning, it's you that looks in the mirror. It's not your friends. It's not me. You have to deal with yourself. And a lot of people don't like to deal with self. They like to put a costume on for public, and then when they buy themselves, it's like, yo, it's reality. And I think that's the scariest part. People don't want to deal with who they are. And I guess once you get to a point in life, you need to just say, you know what, this is who I am, and then try to find your path or your lane and go that way. You know what I mean?
I wanted to ask you also, I know there was a lot of questions that weren't answered. Now that you're older, was there any diagnosis for your mom? Like, did they have what did they call what she was dealing with?
Well, at the time, because I did ask when I was in college, I had to take psychology, and my professor was a psychologist, and I think he was a psychiatrist, but it's almost the same. Just one could give med, one can't. And I was like, listen, I just want to share something with you. Like, I wanted to confide in someone, because I was so like, I was ready to learn, but I felt like I couldn't tell or ask my grandparents, because I still was uncomfortable, because I didn't want them to feel like I was overstepping. So I went to him, and he was like, send me a list of what medication she on, and I can kind of tell you from there. So then later on, I found out it was bipolar, and it was like a combination of like schizophrenia. So it was like mood disorders, depression. It was like a combination of a lot. So like the schizophrenic part is when you like hallucinating, or you're thinking something and it's not really true, but you like believe it. Like there's nothing. Like if I'm telling you the grass is purple, that's it.
Right.
I'm stuck on it. There's nothing you can do about it. And the bipolar, like different personalities, and just so it was a combination of both.
Okay. So as far as your book, do you see yourself making maybe like a series? Like, what is your goal with the book, since you've had such good feedback from it?
Well, actually, my 5-year-old neighbor, she told me that I need to make a series.
Wow.
And I'm like really, a 5-year-old is, but that's just amazing. Like how kids are really being receptive to the story. So she was like, the character in the story name is Lizzie, after my mother. My mother's name was Liz. So she's like, I want to see Lizzie again. You should do like a series. You should do more. Like she should go somewhere else now, because she was going to school. So I was like, well, maybe she could go to like the dentist, or go to the park, or different like. And she gave me that. So at first, I didn't really have a direction where I wanted to go with the book, but now the feedback, the student told me I need to have a series, and then a couple of people asked me for a book with a male character, and I didn't even think about that, but a lot of people tell me when they see a little girl on the cover, they automatically think it's a girl book.
Right.
Because there are some positive girl books, affirmations about like hair and you're a beautiful black girl, but I'm like, this book has nothing to do with gender. There's just like such a gender neutral book, but I get it now, because now from the feedback. So now my goal right now is maybe to give her like, I'm gonna go outside the box. I don't want to give her a brother, right? Because everybody can relate to having a brother in the house. I'm like, maybe I'll give her a cousin, because that's how I grew up. My family history. We all first cousins all grew up in one house. I'm like, well, maybe I'll give him a cousin or something like that. So it's definitely going to be more books coming soon. I can guarantee you that.
What about an animated series? You think you ever thought about that?
No, but I'll claim it.
Yeah,
I'll claim it
today.
right?
I mean, why not? I mean,
I'll claim it.
The first thing we do is give the kids the iPad. Go watch your iPad. Well, watch it on the iPad.
Right.
There's an episode up there.
Right. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Definitely. Wow.
I mean, I'm excited with the future holds, because I didn't expect to do as well as I did, to be honest. So I'm excited, and whatever comes my way, whatever opportunities, I'm not gonna put a ceiling on it, and I'm gonna, wherever God takes me, I'm with it.
Are you willing to work with others?
Oh yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay.
I feel like opportunities come when you work with others,
Right.
right?
Okay.
Like I don't believe in limiting myself or taking all the work on one person.
Right.
I may partner up with someone, and that would be ideal if I was to partner up with someone who's also dealing with mental health, and as a background, I think we'll be a force together.
Right.
So
Wow.
yes, I'm open.
I feel like you have a whole universe ahead of you. You really can do whatever you want with it. You know, the book was a great start. You manifested that. You made that happen. That's dope. I mean, I could see you on Nickelodeon. For real though, because what
Wow.
you're doing kind of caters. So it's just so broad. You know,
Right.
it's a worldwide issue. Why can't you have a 20-minute cartoon? You know what I mean?
That's why I said the animation series.
And that's what exactly.
Because the first thing parents do is take your iPad.
And I hate that.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Offense to the parent.
You
I
give
really
it
hate that.
right. I'm a parent,
Yeah.
but luckily I don't have any small kids anymore. But I remember that state. Hey, reach out, look on your. You know what?
Yeah,
While
right.
you on your iPad, look this.
Yeah.
Let me put program for you to watch this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that just, man, that's just the vision I see for it.
For sure.
Well,
You definitely need a animated series.
I accept it. I accept it. Like you said, I manifested it, and I said I'm gonna do it. And we put our mind to anything, we can do it. And I also want to be a role model too. You know, I want to show other people that you can have a story, and I have a thick, heavy story, right? But I never played the victim. Like I always consciously made an effort to never play the victim. Yes, my mother is sick, but guess what? I got to get up every day. I went to school, I graduated, I got my master's degree. Like, I wasn't letting that stop me, right? Because sometimes we get so caught up in the, oh, you know, I had a hard life, or my dad wasn't there, or my mom was this, and, you know, I lost my job. And
Did
it's
that
like
push you?
people, yeah. Because some people sit in it, and it's like, for me, that was like the motivating factor. Like, because I felt like I had to get up and do something because I didn't have the mommy, daddy life that some people are spoon fed. So I'm like, if I don't have myself, if I don't put myself in a position to be successful, what am I going to do?
Yeah, who
So
gonna
it
save
definitely
you?
pushed
Nobody's
me.
coming to save you.
Right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because some people know that they might, you know, there's nothing wrong with having your parents, you know, that's awesome. But when you don't, what do? Do you sit out and, oh, I'm going to wild out in society, and, you know, I'm going to be in and out of the prison system because my father wasn't here? But that's really not going to help you in the long run,
No, it's
right?
not.
You're going to be angry, which I get, but, like, use that energy to do something positive. So I want people to see me and say, oh, she didn't have the cookie cutter life. She had to live with her grandparents all her life. She watched her mother in and out of hospital. Then her mother passed away, and she still finished school. She still is a mother to her kid. She still made time for herself and wrote her book, and, you know, go to work every day with my head up high, and still live the things that I want to do. And don't let, you know, no trials or tribulations hinder you from being that great person that you can be. And, like, use your story to push forward. And it's not easy. Trust me. I don't get up every day and, like, this great, amazing energy. You know, it's not easy. But, you know, I feel like I have to keep going and I want to help motivate others.
I have a question. Do you ever think about doing your own personal book? Because your story's amazing. And let's be clear, not too many people, matter of fact, I'm not going to say people, I'm going to say black women are willing to even share this part of the story. You know, with social media society, we just want to look good, look cute, get this done, get that done, pose. But no, it's another side to that. You know what I mean? And your story alone is a motivation story. Like, some people would have went left. You say, you know what? I'm not going to let this hold me down. I'm going to rise above this. And now you have a book. And you're raising a son. And you're teaching other young, black, white, whatever kids that you're dealing with. Like, this is an amazing story. And you personally could be the face.
I appreciate that. I think sometimes when you're living that life, you don't really see it from the outside looking in. So people tell me that, and a lot of people have come up to me and told me, like, oh, you know, you're so inspirational, I'm so proud of you, and, you know, when you graduated and did all these things, and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't feel it. And I guess it's good because it keeps me humble, right? I don't walk around like thinking I'm the best thing.
Right.
I just feel like I'm just being me. But on the other side, I guess I need to kind of tap into it a little bit more.
I think you should.
Because I think can get a little further. Like you said, I can help others. I could be the face. But I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like I'm just regular and I just live. But it did take me a while to get here too. Because I did have that word. Here we go with that word again, embarrassment. I dealt with that. So I only started telling my story like 5 years ago. Like coming out like where I'm comfortable. Like, yep, she had this. Yep, I seen this. Yep, my father wasn't around. Yep, I lived here, in and out the house. You name it, I've probably seen it. Like, it took a while to get there. So I guess right now, if I can just help people in my community to come to start with sharing their story, and then maybe as I continue, maybe I can tap into other things.
I think you should, because your story is definitely amazing. And it's very heartfelt. Like, I can feel your energy. And I'm so grateful that you're here sharing this to our people.
We appreciate you for sure.
Because, like I said, a lot of our women now, they just want to look good in front and do this, and we in Dubai and we that.
BBL season.
Right. everything else under the sun. There's no one saying,
So
you know
much
what?
important stuff going on.
You know, my mother went through this. My childhood went through this. Pop Duke's that. Like, these are stories that need to be heard right now, because somebody in a corner on another side of the world that could be listening to this saying, yo, I need to hear this today.
I agree, because and a lot of stuff on social media is to hide, right? Because a lot of it, like you said, getting the body done and, you know, posting these videos and doing all of that is because some people, not all, but they're not happy with themselves, right? So I know in therapy I started unpacking some of the things I wasn't happy, or some of the things that I had that I feel like I needed to work on. But you start creating this life that's really not real, because you want to convince not only social media, you want to convince yourself that you're full. But we all know that we all have some internal struggles, and we all have some work that we can do. So I do hope that if my story does reaches people, I hope that they can start to like either look inward and see what they want to change and how they can change it. And that's why, you know, I'm in therapy to this day.
Okay.
To unpack all of the things and just connect a lot of dots. Like a lot of the dots that I couldn't fill is now starting to be like, okay, because you wouldn't think in an adult relationship that your 9-year-old decisions and your 9-year-old thoughts is going to affect you later on, but it does. So I hope that anyone that's listening, I hope that, you know, I'm encouraging you to just look inward and like take it from there.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah, man. Especially when you're catering to the kids right now with your book, but what about the teenage girls that were in your shoes at 13, 14, and 12? Maybe you could do something for them. And it might not even be a book, but just something that if somebody could have given that to you at your age, it would have helped your understanding with what you were dealing with, you know?
You're absolutely right. So when I did work in a group home, it really, really helped me, because I was helping them. I would tell them my story. Like, I would be like, listen, my life wasn't great. You might see me now and think, you know, because I work here and I'm an adult, and that, honestly, that helped me a lot. It was kind of like my therapy, was sitting them down and talking to them. And, you know, when you're 13 years old, you're learning about your body, you're learning about your likes, your dislikes, you're learning about hygiene. And me having the ability to help girls at that time, it was great. So I can definitely see myself going back into in some capacity working with teens. I don't know how. I did work in middle school for 5 years.
Okay.
So that was a lot too. So I wouldn't limit myself. I wouldn't say I want to stay with a certain age group. I would talk to adults, because we all have a story. And even as an adult, we all have that inner childhood that we still want to deal with.
Yeah.
So I may talk to someone that's 50, and we may talk about a time she was 12, and she felt, you know, lonely or abandoned or confused. Or embarrassed, yeah. And I can relate, because up until maybe 30, I was embarrassed.
Wow. It took a toll.
Yeah. Because your own best friend, that's the person you tell everything to. They don't know about your mother and your upbringing. It's like I really held that for a really long time. So like it was hard, but it was necessary. Because after that, I finally felt free. I felt free. Like I can take on the world now. No one can throw this in my face. No one can use this against me. I'm living my truth. This is who she was. This is who she is. This is my story, and this is me. But I pretended a lot. I'm fine. I'm okay. And I would cry behind closed doors. I would be jealous. People and their mothers. It was a lot. Yeah, definitely angry. But that jealousy, that emotion is real, right? And it wasn't like I was like a angry jealous girl. I was like a hurt jealous girl, like very emotional, like crying, or I would envision. I remember when I was like maybe like 12, like I was like, I want a different mother. Like I would envision me having like a different mother. Wow. Like I even had like a face for her and everything, because I just wanted like what my friends had. Yeah. Like I wanted to like take pictures with my mom and get my nails done and get my
simple
hair.
Things.
Like
we
things
take
that we take for granted. Like I used to be like, I'm gonna get me a mother. I'm gonna find me a mother. I want somebody to like, call me their daughter and take me outside with them. Like it's real what you go through internally, and you never tell no one.
That's what the part I don't understand with you having is like I didn't even maybe you and your brother, but your sister, that's sometimes your best friend. Because I was the baby of the house. So, and I know at times my sister, I can go to her and she'll go to my parents. You know what I mean?
Right.
So y'all didn't even have those conversations.
I don't think we knew how. No one ever came to us to talk about mental health. So it was like we didn't have the tools or even the words to say about, well, how do we talk to someone? No one ever talked to me. The only time we really got to talk to is when we got in trouble. They can give you a lecture about what you did and what you shouldn't do, and how you ain't gonna be doing this and that, that in their house, and they run the house, and you the kid, and
let's have the conversation about what's going on with mom.
No one would sit me down and lecture me about how she's not well, and when what we can do, and so I just think it just all stayed inside. So that prevented me from having those conversations with my sister, because I was just like, well, nobody talks to me, so I guess this is nothing to even talk about. Like, we know she's sick. That was common. She's sick. And, she did things that wasn't normal when she was being she had like a lot of like behavior issues, or she was living in the house, the psych ward house, and she would leave and she wasn't supposed to leave. And it's like, well, she's sick. Well, oh, well. And so it was like, okay, well.
Wow.
Now, do you see yourself doing public speaking? Because I see that for you.
Now, yes, but I have anxiety sometimes. So some days I'm like,
I can't tell. You're doing a great job right now. You
Yeah. Some days, I'm open to it. If the opportunity presented itself, I would definitely do it. Okay. So, I guess I'll put that out there now, right? I'll manifest it, and if there's mental health opportunities, I would definitely jump on it. Okay. Because again, it's not really for them, it's for me. This is a part of my healing. Me sharing my story with anyone is healing. Me telling somebody what I went through, it takes that burden off me. And when someone comes to me and say, thank you, you helped me, and now I'm going to tell my story, my mother had an illness too, or my mother has this, or my mother, I felt abandoned growing up, or my father was abusive. Like, some people tell me some crazy stories, and I'm like, oh, wow, like, you present so normal. And I'm like, wait, so do I. I get it now.
Everybody, you understand.
Right, so I get it. So I think I would be open to it, because it's a two-way street. I'm helping others, and me releasing all of this is helping myself.
Nice. So can we actually see the book? You have a copy with you today, right?
Yes. Let me take the plastic off. So this is called Lizzie Misses the First Day of School. And it's about a young girl who, she's nervous. she's about to miss the first day of school, and we all can relate to school, right? When night before the first day, you had your outfit on the bed, you had your book bag.
Especially if you're going to a new school.
You had your, if you were like young, second, third grade, you had your pencil case. You had your, you was excited, you was ready.
Okay.
Damn, I love this.
So, the book is here. Where can they find the book?
They can find the book. I have my website.
Okay.
It's called www.theteacher.com. And it's also on Amazon.
Another Amazon.
Wow.
Yeah,
Amazon.
it's on both.
Wow.
You see?
It's definitely on both.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want you to take you to
this.
That's such a good question. Because a lot of people ask me that. And it was really, honestly, it was really quick. It was more so of me just procrastinating and not following along as I should have. But it didn't take me a long time at all. I maybe wrote it like probably less than a month.
Wow.
It was I don't know, I read a lot of kids' stories a lot, so I kind of knew like the rhythm, the flow, and how to put words together that second grader could understand. So I guess because of my background, it wasn't a long process for me.
It's crazy how all of that aligned too. Like your line of work helped you write the book, and it wasn't too hard on you,
Right.
Like you didn't write it and have to just dumb it down. It sounded like it kind of came natural, and the kids will be receptive to it.
I think everything now is coming full circle for me. Like, I'm talking about mental health because this is my background. I'm dealing with students in mental health. I went to school for education. Like, I just feel like everything just makes sense. Like,
It's your purpose. It
It's your purpose.
Okay.
It's your purpose for real.
And stop running from it.
Yeah.
Okay.
This
I'll
is
take
your
that.
purpose.
You heard it here first. This is my purpose.
How much is your book? Because I'm taking this with me.
It's, that's 20.
Gotcha. We're going to do the cash apps and all of that. But yeah, I'm happy that you came. Big shout outs to the family. Hopefully I get to stop by. I'm doing a million things, but I'm going to try to swing by like I usually try to say what's up.
Okay.
Grandmother, grandfather, everybody. Thank you for coming in. I mean, this is our first episode, man.
We appreciate you.
This was amazing. Thank you.
And you're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
Seriously, I don't care how many we got to do. We want to get this out. We want everybody to know if this has to be the platform for you to reach the masses. We being told first, this is your home. Feel free. Anything that you're doing.
And sometimes you need that person to kind of push you. Because sometimes I get caught up in my own world, and I have fears, I have anxiety.
Well, we walk by faith and not by sight.
You're right. So
You know
I may need that push today.
Right.
So I appreciate you for believing in me to even see a bigger purpose.
Now, this is your home.
What's going on here, man. I see what's going on.
I definitely want this to be your home.
Okay.
For anything that you're up and coming, anything. I don't care if it's some artwork. Just let us know, and the platform is yours.
I appreciate that.
These are the things that we don't push out that much. We rather talk about the clothes, the trips, the outfits.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, let's talk about life. Day-to-day life, real life.
Sure.
Not in the closet, not in the dark. What's going on in the communities, the people next door, the person you see every day at work.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is amazing. I'm giving you your flowers now. I see big things in the future.
Absolutely.
You're a blessing.
Aw.
God is great.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I'm happy for you. And I admire your strength and your courage.
Thank you.
And listen, this is the first of many.
I claim it, I receive it, and thank you. Thank you. Like, thank
Before we
you.
close out again, once again, let the people know where they can find the book, because I want that book to touch every household.
Sure, it has to.
So you
It
can
has to,
find my story, Lizzie Misses the First Day of School, on my website, theteacher.com. You can find me on Instagram, TheTeacher, and you can also purchase my story on Amazon.com. If you look up my name, Tawana Watkins.
Wow.
And you'll see it come up.
And Tawana Watkins will be dropping the book,
Follow up.
right? Her own personal, and we're going to do the animation series.
Okay.
We're putting it out there already.
Okay.
We're gonna
with
plant
the book
seeds.
tour and everything.
Right.
State
Plant the
book tour, book
seeds today.
signing, all of that.
Okay.
We appreciate you. We definitely appreciate
I receive it. I thank you for your positive energy.
No doubt.
Thank you for allowing me to share my story on your platform. And just thank you for believing in me. Sometimes all it takes is that one person, right, to have that little bit of faith in you. So this gives me the energy to keep moving forward and knowing that my mother's story is not in vain and that I'm actually inspiring and helping. And sometimes I need a reminder because sometimes I get caught up in my world. So
Yeah, no, please
Thank
keep
you.
going. Please keep
Please,
going.
please.
Please.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. Yeah, I love that.
One.